Hello everyone, welcome to your history class. In my last class, I have discussed with you different land revenue settlements introduced by the British East India Company in India. And in my today's class, I will discuss with you commercialization of agriculture. Dear students, the British East India Company in India started growing crops that were required in Europe. The British pursued it, and even they pressurized the Indian farmers to produce cash crops like indigo, cotton, silk, opium, pepper, tea and sugar. Production of the cash crops enabled the British to make a lot of profit. Thus, Indian agriculture became commercialized. This meant that the crops produced by the farmers were not meant for consumption but for sale in the market only for profit. The commercialization of crops were either used as raw material for the British industries or sold for a high profit in the European markets. For the same reason, the British introduced plantation crops like tea, coffee and rubber. Remember students, commercialization of agriculture resulted in a severe shortage of food in India. These resulted in frequent famines and the loss of millions of lives. Gradually, these resulted to a number of peasant rebellions across the country in the 19th century. One of the foremost of this was the Indigo Rebellion of 1859. The Indigo Rebellion was one of the major peasant uprisings of the 19th century, started in Nadia in Bengal and soon spread beyond it. Indigo is a bright blue dye extracted from a tropical plant grown mainly in India. The dye was especially popular among European cloth manufacturers of the 18th century. Therefore, the British began to force farmers to grow indigo in place of food crops, as indigo could only be cultivated on fertile land and land that was usually reserved for the cultivation of rice. The European planters began to invest in indigo production. They pressurized the farmers to sign contracts and produce indigo. Remember students, the farmers who signed contracts got loans which made it compulsory for them to cultivate indigo on at least 25% of their land holdings. This system is basically known as Teen Kathia system. So remember students, indigo cultivation was generally done in Bengal on the basis of Teen Kathia system, which means the farmers has to cultivate indigo on the 25% of his land holdings. But in reality, these peasants were brutally exploited. They got a very low price for the indigo and the cycle of loans never ended. Moreover, the farmers were produced by the planters to produce indigo on their most fertile land, in which the peasants preferred to cultivate rice. But indigo production ruined the fertility of the soil because indigo has deep root which exhausted the fertility of the soil. So we can say that the indigo cultivation was a double loss for the peasant. The continued oppression by the British indigo planters led to the Indigo Rebellion in 1859. The peasants refused to cultivate indigo and attacked the indigo factories and the houses of British planters with spears, bows and arrows. Many planters and zamindars were forced to flee. Finally, the British used the police and the army to suppress the revolt. Remember student, we can say that Indigo Rebellion of 1859 was a successful rebellion because after the Indigo Rebellion, Indigo Commission was appointed by the government in 1860. The commission started studying the condition of the peasants and it stated that the peasants could not be forced to grow indigo. So we can say that the Indigo Rebellion was a successful rebellion because after the revolt, the commission approved that there was no need to cultivate indigo against the will of the farmers. After the Indigo Rebellion of 1859, the indigo planters now moved to Bihar, and now they also started the cultivation of indigo in the provinces of Bihar. Gradually, the peasantry of Bihar also started opposing the cultivation of indigo. Now, dear students, let me tell you an interesting fact about the Indigo Rebellion. Dinobandhu Mitra depicted the plight of the indigo workers in his play called Nil Darpa. It generated a lot of support for the workers. And you will be surprised to know that the play was later banned by the British government. Okay, and later on, this play was translated in English by Michael Madhusudan Dutta. And I hope you are familiar with the name of Michael Madhusudan Dutta. And this play was later published by Reverend James Long. Okay students, this is it for today. For my next class, I will provide you important question answers and activity. Thank you and have a nice day.